So here is our bitter melon plant, and we are finally getting some fruit. I've got a couple different ones here, so it looks like we'll have some of the white bitter melon and some just regular green ones, but I don't know if you can see up there. This one kind of like goes from green to yellow, or it's yellow to green. I don't know. I think it's green to yellow. So I've seen about 5 fruit on the, on all the plants so far, but I see a lot of yellow flowers that are getting pollinated, which is good. So hopefully that means we'll have a lot more fruit coming. And here's how it looks when it's just getting formed, and that just turns into a bigger fruit. Well, vegetable, whatever you want to call it. Alright, so what we'll do is once we harvest these, we'll show you how to prepare them and see what you think.
Alright, I'm getting ready for prepping for the dinner. It always takes me a long time because I'm so picky. I want to show you how I remove these tough veins, I call them, from the celery. I have a hard time chewing through them, and I wind up have to spit them out. I guess I'm not a cow, so I cannot process all these fiber. And they hurt my teeth, and they get stuck in my teeth, and I don't like that. So you just take it like that. Take it like that, and you pull it down. And go through that. And what don't come out, I still try to get to it using my fingernail to get it and pull it out.
Do you think a lot of people are, maybe they don't like certain vegetables because of all the
texture? I think it's the texture wise. And then now that these I couldn't get to, I just kind of break it in half and just pull it that way. Some people say that that's a lot of waste, and yes, it is. Some celery does better than some other type of celery. You just have to kind of find in your area what kind of celery would allow you to do this. And, it doesn't have to be completely all gone, but as much as you could remove, it makes your eating more enjoyable. Remove as much as you can, and what's really funny is on the edge of this is usually what's really tough. So make sure you remove that part too. And then that way, anybody in your family that don't like celery, that might be the reason why. Because once you remove those veins, the celery is actually very, very enjoyable to eat. And not to mention that the celery actually lowers blood pressure. So that's how we do it. And then when I get to other stuff, I'll show you more. Alright, now we remove all the veins from the celery. And now we want to cut it up. You could cut it in the sections and then cut into thin slices like that. That takes more work. So for time's sake, you just stack as many together and then just cut it away. And you see how easy it is to cut now that the vein is removed. Just imagine what your teeth have to deal with when you're trying to chew those fibers. And I don't know about you. I don't have the teeth of cow or the stomach of cow. I can digest that. And celery usually is not the main character of my dish, but they are the flavoring and the texture component. So you could cut it however you like.
So you're cutting them what they call on a bias, right?
Yes.
Or at an angle kind of thing.
Yes. So that's our celery. And now the carrots, make sure you peel them, and then you can see I already cut the end piece off, cut it in the bias, on the bias. And since we have a pet rabbit right now, she loves that. So that's her treat. Nothing goes to waste. And cut the carrots as thin as you can on the bias. That way you could get long julienne strips. And now you stack them together like that, and just now when you cut something, you want to try to cut it thin, and you know it's hard work. So make sure that you got your finger positioned on your food the right way, so that your fingertip is kind of curved in, and then you're using your knuckle as your guide, not your fingertip. So that way it keeps you from cutting yourself. And then this way, you just kind of move your fingertip back, and your knuckle stay in place. So you could cut pretty thin. See how thin they are?
Looks like carrot hair.
Well, the reason why I cut it this way, again, some people may already know, but I actually hate carrots for some reason. And but if I cut it this way, then I love them. So if you have family member, and especially kids, if they don't like vegetables, try different ways to cut the vegetables.
Different cutting techniques.
Yeah, different way of cutting it. And then because then when it's cooked, their texture is different. And when the texture is different, they may like it. I mean, I didn't figure out, I didn't like how I could wind up liking carrots cutting it this way as an adult. Until in my 50s, Who would have figured at 50, 50-something, I finally like carrots. So just that whatever the vegetables that your family don't like, find a different way to cut it and find a different way to cook it, so that will broaden your, what would I call it? Food library.
Food library, culinary horizon.
Yes, whatever you want to call it, because sometimes you have to do what you can with what you have. And with this, also carrots is never the main character in my dish. They are always also a supplemental character in my dish. And this would be for the coloring. And, of course, the texture. And it brings different flavor to your food. Okay, so that's carrots. And now we got a couple okra here that we never got enough to make a dish out of this year. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut it up. It is also as a supplemental character in my cabbage dish later. So just kind of thinly slice it. They only take a few minutes during the cooking. So that's how you could cut your okra. But they're good for stir frying if you have enough. Also cut them that way. They stir fry so quickly. And then here's our bitter melon.
These are kind of the star of the show right now because we're actually doing a video on bitter melon. But wanted to show you how we prepare them and how we cook them. And can you tell us a little bit about bitter melon?
Well, the bitter melon, I mean, again, growing up as a kid, I hate them because I hate the taste of bitterness. But fortunately or unfortunately, all plant family, or whatever you want to call it, anything that is bitter, it's actually it's good for your liver, and it also kind of has a detox property. So even you could buy tea that made from either dehydrated bitter melon itself, or you could get tea that made out of the bitter melon vine, including the leaves and all that. You dry it up, and and you can make tea out of that. That actually supposedly help you clean out your liver and your kidney. And usually, if you do things that are good for your kidney and for your liver, it's also good for your gallbladder. Because basically, whatever each system is working to clean out your body, if those systems get cleaned out, then the other system benefits from it because they don't have to work as hard to clean out the junk in our body. But anyhow, these got a little blemish, and we just kind of take the knife tip and just kind of take that off. You don't have to be like real diligent about it. They're okay, just take out what you don't like, and then you cut the tip of it off. See how big they are? They are longer than my cutting board. And what you do, guess I'm a little pickier than I thought. Anyhow, you could cut straight across all the way through, but since we want to keep the seeds, so what I do is I pick it up, and just kind of slice it lightly across, and go to the other side, and do the same thing. And then I put my finger in there and open it up. And you can see the seed pod in there. And here's the seed. So here's the seed. But unfortunately, the hairs still look white. So that means that these seeds may not be as viable as we like. Usually, if these start to turn red, the inside the seed pods turn red, and especially if they start getting slimy, that means it's ready for harvesting for the seed. But then by then the bitter melon will become like they're very, very soft, they're very almost turn into mushy, and then you cook it, it'll just fall apart. By then there'll be no texture left in the bitter melon itself. So it's kind of a how you call it. Sometimes you have to sacrifice some of the bitter melon for the seeds. That's all I can say. And then you just take the knife and then kind of cut between the membrane and the seed pod membrane and the flesh. And then you take a spoon. Where's my spoon? Well, if you don't have a spoon, just take your thumb and basically that'll help you pull it out. So that's how you get rid of it. But if you use a spoon and to clean out a little bit more of those white membrane, because those are what cause the bitterness. So you scrape out as much as you can without losing the flesh. So you take it like that and you scrape it. Okay, and once you scrape them out, and and sometimes people just leave it the whole, and then they cut it into like a big rings, and then they scoop out the seeds, and they stuff like you stuff it almost like you stuff bell peppers, and then you could steam it, or you could cook it in broth. Make a soup out of it, or you can make a dish. If you steam it, then you take the juice and you thicken it to make a gravy out of it, a white gravy out of it, and then you pour it on top of your bitter melon. That's another way of doing it. So there's many different ways of eating bitter melon actually. And my sister-in-law, oh my God, she is the best vegetarian cook. She could make some of the best bitter melon dish that I don't even know how to describe. She could cook it in many different ways. She could even braise them. But that's another story. But here, this is how you cut it. Again, put your finger tip on top of the bitter melon and make sure your knuckle is in place. I like them thin, so. And as you can see, I stuck them together, stacked them, so save me time cutting it. And once I get them all cut up, what I would do is I will put some salt on it to salt them down a little bit and let them sit in the salt for at least 15.
Draw out the liquid?
Yes, to draw out some of that bitter liquid. And depends on how much salt I put on and or what kind of salt I use. What I have learned so far, that the table salt is the worst thing you could cook food with, because all you taste is kind of a bitterness, unnatural bitterness, and just downright obnoxious saltiness. But we have switched to Himalayan sea salt. Oh my God, that makes the world of difference in your cooking. And so if I use Himalayan sea salt in drawing the water out of the bitter melon, sometimes I don't even rinse them. I just squeeze out the water, and that almost sees already salted itself. Maybe just a little soy sauce at the end to finish it off. But believe it or not, it's probably best to go ahead and invest in Himalayan sea salt and save the table salt for like cleaning purposes, because it's definitely not worth eating. Anything that you need to marinate, you do not want to use table salt. So anyhow, this is how we do it. Here, what we're going to do is also some of the condiments to go with every dish that I'm cooking is the green onion. And the green onion here is, usually when you get it from the grocery store, they're pretty tough already. And so they could endure the cookings. So usually I put the green onion in right away when I'm cooking. But anyhow, so to deal with how tough they are, I usually cut them like this. The green part, I cut them in half if they're too wide. And then the whites, same thing. If it's too big, I cut them in half. And then this one is small, I don't have to. And then I cut them again very small. You chop them up. Again, these are the supporting actors.
Supporting cast.
Yep. So, you don't want them to be too big. And another reason I cut them this small is, again, as a kid, I never liked green onion. And this way, I don't have to bite into them too much. And that will keep me from noticing them too much. But I do miss them if I don't have them, as far as the flavor goes. So they impart quite a bit of a flavor. So and everything that I chopped up, I tried to put it in the condiment container. That way it will help me organize my cooking. So I got everything organized this way, and when it's time to cook, it takes no time at all. And now we're going to do the garlic. And I already I peeled them, cleaned them, and take cut the stem off. And then you take your knife, lay it on the side, and just kind of smash it. And be careful.
This is just one technique that you're using. To cut it
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
There's different ways of cutting. This is kind of like a smash and chop.
Mm-hmm. You know, and you know, some people say, well, you could just, you know, food process it. Yeah, you could, but you know what? I don't like washing food processor.
Yeah, that's a pain.
You know, because every time I get to the blade, I feel the danger. I'm clumsy, so I have to do things that I think is safe for me. You know. So food processors only when I really have no choice. Like when we have to process the what was it? What kind of pepper did you grow? The cayenne.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. When you have too much cayenne pepper to chop, you don't. You just you go ahead and utilize the food processor. But in this case, I'm just cutting enough for maybe a couple dishes, maybe 3, depends. But we love garlic, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And don't let people tell you that, oh, you're going to have garlic breath. No, you're not going to. Because once you put this in your cooking, you know, it really imparts a lot of flavor in your dish. And and it's good for your health. Because garlic supposedly have property of boost your immune system. And it kills a lot of germs and bacteria and viruses. And from what I understand, it may even help thin your blood. Now, that part I'm not sure. But anyhow, you know, do your own research.
It's supposed to be better if you can eat it raw
or ferment it.
Fermented is one of the ways that you do it.
And that we do. We eat fermented garlic. So now we got it all chopped up. And I saved these condiment containers from the restaurants or when Sam's or different grocery store will give you samples. I save them and I save them and wash them and I make sure I keep the top. And then that way I chop it up. I got too much, and whatever I don't use, I just went ahead and put the top on. And usually I do my condiment first because it leaves a lot of their juice on my cutting board, and then I cut my vegetables. And then that way the vegetables will will pick up the garlic flavor. And then once I finish cutting my vegetables, then I cut my meat. So that way I don't have to wash the cutting board every time after I wash. So
After you cut.
Because you know some people they want to cut their meat first, then they gotta go and wash it up.
The cutting board.
Yeah, you know, and then you just when you process your food or when you prep your food for cooking, you have to find the best way for you.
Make it easier.
Yeah, exactly. I hate doing dishes, and I'm picky about how my dishes are done. So I'm trying to keep it, keep it as simple as possible. And now, these peppers. Our resident farmer forgot what it's called, and I have no idea what it is. But it's one of those kind of pepper that is not very spicy, and it's got very very thin wall, which is very pleasant to eat. And they're good for stir frying. So I don't have enough to make a dish with some kind of meat, so I'm gonna cut it up. It's a supporting.
I think these are the ones that actually is supposed to turn black.
Oh, I think they are.
So it's the what was it?
Was it Black Beauty or Black something?
It might be like something like a Black Beauty type thing.
But anyhow, well, the weather's getting too cold, and somehow, as any of our pepper getting ready to ripen, they get attacked.
Yeah.
And since we don't use any chemicals, so we'll have to use what we can. So anyhow, here I'm cutting it on the bias. And then use that as the spice for my dishes. I'm going to put it with the stir-fry cabbage. And maybe even putting in my bitter melon. We like food kind of on the hot and spicy side. So, but again, all these are optional, really. You know, for the cabbage or for the bitter melon or for any vegetables. You know, but as far as for stir frying, I like it to be as colorful and as possible. And then these peppers, since we already have them, and we're going to use them. You cannot preserve enough hot peppers anyway, so eat them fresh and preserve what you cannot eat.
So you don't try to take the seeds out or anything like that, right?
Well, this one is a little harder to do, so so I don't try it. And then plus this one is not as hot as the cayenne. But of course, I might prove myself wrong later on when we eat it. We'll see. So what we will have tonight is pan-fried salmon. And then I'll make I'll cook the bitter melon. And then after that, then I'll cook the cabbage. And then we'll have the rice with everything on top. Thank you. See, this is the bitter melon. Oops. That after I salted down, and that's how much liquid it came out.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Yeah. So after I squeeze it out, this is what we got. Ooh, I gotta hurry up. My pan is burning up.
Don't want that. So you already got the salmon done.
Mm-hmm. And I have these. These are shredded Julian. How you call it? Smoked pork jaw.
Oh, okay.
Or bacon, you could use it, but these is not necessary. You don't have to have it. And I like the taste of these little shrimpies. And those are also optional. There's the garlic. And some of those peppers. If you don't have any of these things, just garlic is actually enough. It's just that all the other stuff actually gives you more flavor. So bacon and garlic will work. And let me put some of these chopped garlic, chopped spring onion in there. Now let me put this. And since most of the salt had been squeezed out, because we are getting rid of the extra moisture, so we just put a little teeny tiny. I would say this is about the eighth of teaspoon. This is like those ice cream tasting.
Sample.
Yeah, sample spoons, just a little bit in there.
You keep everything, don't you?
If they're useful, you keep them. But only if you use them.
Yeah.
All right, and now we just go ahead and cover it up. In a few minutes, we mix it up, and then we'll see. Okay, it's been a couple of minutes, but it looked like it's not getting as getting done as fast as I want it. And usually what happens is that when it's too dry, there's not enough liquid in there, then you could just a little bit of a water, and you can hear the sizzling.
Is that when the salt works too well?
No, not that. It's almost like you need extra liquid to help conduct the heat or something like that, you know. But every time that I find that my food is cooking, my vegetable cooking slower, it's because it's too dry.
Yeah.
You know, so that might be just a little bit. But now I could taste test it. Still on the crunchy side, but it's getting better. So we just put a little soy sauce, a little drizzle for the coloring and umami, among other things. And maybe a couple more minutes, and then we'll be done.
So again, you're using one pot or one pan to cook how many items?
I pan sear the salmon first, and this is the salmon skin that came off like on the side. I tried to get it a little bit more crispy, but I may have failed that.
I gotta tell you, I mean, even if you failed getting it crispy, the salmon skin is so good, so delicious, and just imagine how much oil, that salmon oil, which is good for you also, just inside that skin.
Yes.
And then, so then you went from cooking the salmon to cooking the bitter melon, and then
after that, I'm gonna cook the cabbage.
And then you're gonna cook the cabbage. So.
So that's done.